Welcome back to the Golden State with Mates post-game live after Stephen Curry goes berserk. An absolutely insane performance from the two-time MVP, lifting the Warriors to a 121-115 victory over the Orlando Magic at Kia Center on Thursday. Man, it feels like Steph has still been capable of these performances, but this was at another level that we just clearly haven't seen so far this season. I don't think he'd had a 40-point game this season before this, and he just exploded through that. 56 points, 12 threes. There was a period there, probably middle third quarter, where you thought, hey, he's actually a chance of breaking Clay's record. He was like 9 of 12 from three, I think halfway through the third quarter. Added another 3 threes in the fourth to secure the dub. Man, you run out of superlatives to describe this guy. Like, he is just, there's nothing like a Curry flurry. There's nothing in terms of entertainment value and the excitement and fun you have watching that. Like, it's hard to take a smile off my face. Like, he's absolutely extraordinary. And so, full credit to him, because not many other Warriors had it going in this game. The Warriors seemed pretty flat on both ends of the floor from basically the opening tip. They were down 34-23. At the end of the first, Orlando pretty much had their best offensive first quarter of the season. I think they were something like 12 or 15 from the floor. That lead got out to 17 in the second quarter, and you thought, the Warriors just don't have it in this game, and this is probably going to go down as an L which would have been disappointing to start out the 5-game road trip. And then Steph hits that crazy beyond half-court three at the halftime buzzer, brings it back to 12. It should have been 15 at halftime. Steph hits that three, gets back to 12, and you think, okay, maybe, that can bring some momentum. And it did. And the Warriors went on a 40-21 run in the third quarter there to completely flip the game. Before I get into your guys' comments, the other thing to mention as well here is Quinten Post. He and Steph were the two that were the game changers in this game. And I think Steve deserves a lot of credit. Obviously started small again with Draymond at the 5, Moses out there with Jimmy, Steph, and Pods. And it just didn't work in the first half. And the Magic's size really got a hold of the Warriors. It was probably the first time where you thought the lack of a traditional center was really costing Golden State. And credit to Steve. He realized that. He started QP over Moses in the third quarter. And again, that just completely changed the game. He had 10 points, basically. I know we're going to talk about Steph, and he's going to be the main highlight from the game. But Quinton Post had 10 points in the first 3 minutes of the third quarter, a couple of threes. And all of a sudden, the Warriors basically took the lead back, within the first 5-6 minutes of the third quarter. It took them no time to recover that disadvantage, that 12-point margin that they trailed by at halftime. And Quinton Post ended up with 18 points, 5 rebounds, which is huge in the second half. It was a game-high plus 22, which I think, again, just shows how much of an impact he had on this game. I know singular game plus-minus can be misleading at times, but I think him being a plus 22, he fully deserved to lead the game, because that's how much of an impact he made in the second half. And just the fact that he was able to start, obviously, and then have him and Draymond both guarding Paolo. And Paolo was absolutely huge in the first half. Paolo was huge in the game, had a reasonable fourth quarter as well, had 41 points. And yet you felt in the second half a lot more comfortable with having both Draymond and Quinton Post out there and being able to throw that size at him. So a massive, massive performance from Steph Curry and Quinton Post. And basically everyone else. Draymond, I thought, some of Draymond's passing in the first half was just awful, absolutely horrible. Some of the turnovers there were and you just thought, okay, they're just not locked into this game whatsoever. But credit to Draymond, he fought through it, and I thought, again, he played well in the second half, had a double-double, 12 points, 10 rebounds. But really, aside from that, was not a good Jimmy Butler game, not a good Brandon Bajemski game. Those guys, I think, shot a total of 4 of 19 from the floor. So for the Warriors to win this game, with Butler made one field goal. Jimmy Butler made one field goal and had, 5 points in the game? Yeah, 5 points, 4 rebounds, 7 assists. So you go into this game and you say Jimmy Butler had 5 points, and that Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner combined for 68 points. You would have thought, okay, yeah, the Warriors have probably lost by double digits. But instead, they walk away with a 6-point win because Steph Curry goes off for 56 points. Absolutely remarkable. Just some comments from you guys here. Knox says this is a good tone setter for the road. Only thing is Jimmy got to be more aggressive. Yeah, it just wasn't. It wasn't just the fact that Jimmy missed his shots, but he wasn't. He also wasn't looking for them, and I think that can kind of come and go in his game a little bit. And look, at the end of the day, they win this game, and so you can kind of forgive it a little bit because they won. But ultimately, like he's going to have to be better moving forward. Did not play it well at all in this game, but I think he's still getting his legs under him. He's still trying to return here after a fairly long absence at the end of his tenure with the Miami Heat. So I'm not overly concerned. He's obviously been fantastic, and the Warriors are now 6-1, or is that 7-1? 7-1, I think. Yeah, 7-1 since Jimmy Butler's arrival to the team. Han Solo says Curry is the GOAT of this era. Hard to disagree after a performance like that. Robert says Curry flurry. Jimmy isn't in condition yet, as I just mentioned there. Yep. Then Dex says, what did I just watch? Steph Post showed up in the third. Yeah, third quarter was massive, and particularly earlier. Again, as I said, the fact the Warriors weren't able to erode that advantage that the Magic had so quickly must have been really deflating for Orlando. Like, they had a 15-point lead with half a second left in the first half. And then basically 6 minutes of game time later, like they're down. And the Warriors kind of took a bit of an advantage into the fourth quarter. I think they led by 7 heading into the fourth. And they kind of needed that because the Magic did make their run. I think they got back to within 2 at one point. But, Steph hits a couple of big threes. And he was just never letting the Warriors lose that game. Simple as that. Robbie says Jimmy still doesn't have his legs, but he still provides his passing and defense. Yeah, he did have 4 rebounds, 7 assists. So, he still impacted the game somewhat. It wasn't completely terrible, but particularly from a scoring standpoint, the Warriors are going to need more than that moving forward. Thendex says, what do you think went wrong in the first half? I think it was a combination of a lot of things. I think the Warriors just weren't totally locked in on either end of the floor. I think particularly, some of the passing from Draymond, some of the passing in general, some of the chemistry stuff on offense, and then defense just not being as sharp and as quick as what they have been and allowing some open jumpers. And Orlando were just hot in the first half. And to be fair, they were pretty hot throughout the game. Like, they put up 115 points. That's good for the Magic. This is a team that over the last 30 games, so basically for the last half of the season, like that's a pretty long sample size. They have been the worst offense in the league. They're ranked second in defense this season and 28th in offense. And again, last in offense over the last 30 games. So they were just red hot. And I think, the Warriors got Orlando's best. And the fact they were able to kind of take that punch, recover, have Steph Curry and Quinten Post deliver their own punch and then eventually hold on. I mean, this was a really, really good win. Really, really good win because, Steph goes off, continues to show that he's still capable of performances like that, which is the kind of performances the Warriors are going to need in the playoffs. We've got to mention as well, this Orlando team, as I said before, is like the best defense the second best defense in the league or whatever they are. Like, Steph Curry just did that against a notable perimeter defender in Contavious Caldwell-Pope and a notable Orlando team in terms of their defensive capabilities, particularly on their home floor. So to win this game, like, it's a good win in the end. It's a really, really good win based on some of the stuff in terms of Jimmy and Pod struggling, in terms of Paolo and Franz going for 68, Orlando being red hot in the first half. There's a lot to like about that performance and the fact they won, but there's also a positive in the fact there's plenty to improve upon, and Jimmy in particular should be better. Robert says, did Moody start? He did in the first half, but then came off the bench in the second half. I thought he was still okay. He was one of only 4 double-digit scorers for the Warriors, obviously along with Steph, Quinton, and Draymond. So he hit that big corner 3 at the end of the third, which I think took the margin from, 4-7, I think, at the end of the quarter. Just checking that. Sorry, from 2-5 it was. 2-5. So that was kind of a big shot there from Moses Moody. Berserk Monk says, game was looking scary. All that size clogging the paint really deterred those drives to the basket, forced the Warriors to rely on their threes. Curry, sorry, I just missed it. Curry the GOAT had to save us. Then X says, we had the 7th, Minnesota back to 8th because we had the better record against them. That's actually true. They played the Lakers today. So either way, the Warriors and Timberwolves won't be tied because if Minnesota win, they'll go half a game ahead again. And if they lose, then they'll be behind the Warriors regardless of tiebreak and stuff like that. Robbie says, I think it'll be nice to have JK back soon because having his scoring threat when Jimmy isn't aggressive will be nice. Good point. Hopefully, Warriors play Philadelphia on Saturday. It has to be coming soon here. Like, I am very confident, surely, that Jonathan Kuminga is back in one of the next two games. Robert says Magic are so big and lengthy. Yeah, I suppose, like, for a guy like Jimmy Butler, maybe facing Orlando aren't great necessarily, aren't great in terms of that matchup for Jimmy. But still, you'd expect more from him, and the Warriors had to rely on their three ball and had to rely on Steph just going nuts and hitting 12 threes. Thandeko says, I thought we were going to choke in the fourth and we didn't score for 5 minutes. Magic had the best defense in the East. We actually did well. Yeah, I just think down the stretch there, I mean, Steph was just making sure we weren't gonna lose that game. Simple as that. Robbie says, this shows if the team can play solid the rest of the season, Steph can still light it up in the playoffs. Yep, good point there. Henry says, we're going to the MF finals, baby. I'm not going to say the full word there, but I like the optimism and I like the excitement. And yeah, I mean, there's not too many teams that, again, as Draymond said over the All-Star break, that there's not too many teams that necessarily scare the crap out of you. And there's going to be some teams that the Warriors can scare the crap out of with having Steph Curry and have him capable of performances like he just put up. And Jimmy, obviously, playoff Jimmy, we know about that. Draymond's a noted playoff performer. So Warriors looking good. Berserk Monk says, I think Butler usually plays bad against Orlando, at least in recent seasons when he was in Miami. I'm going to have to look that up. Possibly the case. Gamer F2P says, I'm sorry, but Looney should be on the floor. I'll keep saying this. Tonight, TJD would be the best rim protector in intensity. Looney cannot jump for rebounds or contest shots against athletic bigs. So you're saying Looney should be off the floor and TJD in. Henry very, very excited, saying that the Warriors are heading to the finals. Henry says, I was screaming in my house for every shot from Steph and Quinten Post, man. 52nd overall pick, 7-footer, just stretching the floor. And he's got a bit more to his game. Like, what about when he block Banchero at one point at the rim as well? And, like, he's got some finishing ability and he just plays hard and he plays with the joy. And that's really infectious, I think. So it's fantastic to see. Red Sox says, apparently Jimmy also had a single-digit game against Orlando last time. All right, you're the second person to mention it, so let's look it up. Jimmy Butler v. Magic. See what he's done over recent times. This is his last 5 games, according to StatMuse. He had 3 points, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. That was on October 23. And then last season, 23 points, 15 points, 38 points, and 22 points. So he did have a 38-piece that's last season, isn't it? Yeah. So, the last couple for Jimmy Butler have been a little bit disappointing, obviously, from his perspective. Just having a look through your guys' comments here. Jimmy plays best with athletic bigs or wings like a JK and Knox or a Trace. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the Kuminga-Butler combination once JK returns, which, again, as I said, should hopefully be in one of these next 2 games, you'd imagine. Seems like they keep drawing it out. Jackson says, those 2 fouls drawn by Butler at the start of the fourth were big, got into the bonus a few minutes in. Yeah, good point. Berserk Monk says, as long as the Warriors don't play teams that have good defenses with a lot of size, should be fine. We can't depend on Curry dropping 50 every time we match up against size. That's true, but there's very few teams that possess the kind of size that the Magic do and the kind of defense that the Magic do. So if you look at the Warriors' schedule, things are going to be opening up and become a lot easier, I would have thought. Game F2P says, QP always goes off in the third. Check the metrics. Orlando says, go get KD this offseason. Sign and trade Kuminga a 4-year, $120 million deal. Kuminga, Moody, Buddy, Santos. Twitch Berserk says, money doesn't work. Has to be a big contract like Butler. I'm not really, like, the KD stuff. I think KD's going to get traded this offseason. I think we're just going to have plenty of time to discuss that throughout the offseason. So I don't really want to get into it too much now. I'd rather just stay on track with Steph Curry's brilliance and Quinten Post's huge impact as well. Orlando says Kuminga would be the big piece. 30 million. The Suns want Kuminga anyway. Gamer FTP says, what's the excuse this time around? Will the media say this win was just versus the Magic and we're still injured? Orlando says those contracts add up. Just a lot of stuff about Kevin Durant here. Robert says they are sleeping on Post defense. He's a very high IQ defender. I agree. Like, he's got a way in terms of like his tools as a defender. I think in time, if he gets a little bit more confident, like we saw him block a shot in the second half today, I think in time, once he gets a little bit more confidence on that end, then he might actually start trying to make more defensive plays rather than trying just to be solid, which I think he's trying to do most of the time. He's just being solid and not getting exposed on the defensive end. I think in time he could actually be, I'm not saying he's going to be a plus defender as such, but I don't think he's this, long-term, center who's going to get exposed on the defensive end of the floor. And if he's going to be capable enough defensively with what he can do offensively, like that is a legit starting caliber center, So I'm really fascinated to see what the Warriors do here. Do they continue? They face Philly on Saturday. Embiid, Drummond. Embiid's going to be out, isn't he? There's a lot of talk about his knee stuff at the moment, so I'm assuming he's going to be out. Do you start Quinten Post against Andre Drummond? I don't know. I think you could probably go small again. It's going to be interesting to see what happens, though. Like, the fact that Steve's kind of got this adjustment up his sleeve where it's like we can go small with Moses, but then we can also go big with Quinten Post, and that can also prove really effective. Obviously, Kuminga's going to be coming back, so there's another option there. Orlando says Steph, KD, Butler, and Draymond will get a ring if assembled, guaranteed. They'd want to because the future beyond that could be fairly bleak. Henry says this game was proof of concept where Quinton is enough size and most importantly lights out shooting against the biggest team, a la the Lakers. The Lakers aren't overly big now without AD, and they've got Jackson Hayes. I think the Lakers are going to start going much smaller by their standard with like Rui Hachimura at the 5 and have like a bunch of wings with Hachimura, LeBron, Dorian Finney-Smith, Reeves, Luka. Like, is that probably the Lakers' best 5, I'd imagine? I'm looking forward to seeing the Warriors face up against the Lakers just because I feel like it's always AD that's destroyed the Warriors in past matchups. So how that works now is going to be fascinating. Gamer FTP says, yes, I was really impressed the most with QP's defense, honestly. The fact you're saying that after he had 18 points on 7 of 9 in shooting, and the fact you're saying that you're impressed with his defense, I'm not having a crack at you. That's fine, but it just goes to show you how impressive he is. If you're lauding his defense first and foremost after a 7 of 9 shooting display. Steve says, when we play big teams, we need to start big. A small ball will not work against big teams. I tend to agree. You got to kind of pick and choose. Like, from a game-by-game basis, there's going to be times that call for Moses Moody, and that's fine. There's also going to be games like today where I think, obviously, if you're looking back at it, Steve would probably acknowledge and recognize that he probably should have started Quinten Post. And fortunately, he made that change at halftime, and it worked out for the Warriors as they romp back to a big come-from-behind victory. Robbie says, Jimmy just needs to get his confidence back in his mid-range. He had a few chances today, but didn't take them. Yep, agree with that. Henry says, we will finally have enough length and shooting in terms of stretch 4s, 5s that can compete thanks to Gee, Knox, and QP, Lakers, and Cavaliers. Watch out. Warriors looking good right now. Robert says, only thing QP can't properly guard is fast players. Yeah, I think like you might have some concerns with like teams that space the floor, and like if you've got a shooting 5, like if Quinten Post was guarding himself, like I think he'd struggle because I want to see him like guarding space 5s. Can he close out efficiently enough? Like, can contest shots? Obviously, if he gets switched on to smaller guys, then yeah, that's a huge problem as well. But he's a rookie center. Like, there's plenty of, he's a 52nd overall pick. Like, there's so much to be excited about. And I think the negatives can be ironed out in time. Henry says also that game when he blocked from GP2 GP2 is your favorite Warriors' favorite Warrior. Yeah, huge. It looked like he was just allowing. Was it Cole? Was it Cole Anthony or something? Who was the player there at the end? It was. I'm just trying to find it now. Why is it not on the box score? It's literally not on the box score by the look of it. Whoever it was, it looked like he was just going to allow him to go in for an easy layup or dunk, and then just decided, oh no, I actually will block this. It was huge. Anyway, whoever it was. Oh, sorry, yeah, it was Anthony. Yeah, I was right. All right. Red Sox says, what do you think of Knox subbing into the game? I liked it. I think it was needed at that point to try and provide some energy. Was it a good stretch from Kevin Knox? No, it was quite awful, really. He had a huge putback dunk off a Steph miss layup. That was really the only positive. He fouled immediately. He fouled Banchero on an and one. Then he fouled Franz on a jumper, which on like a pull-up step back jumper, I think it was, which he kind of just didn't really set his feet up well at all. So that was a bit concerning. He had a play where Steph kind of tried to hand the ball off to him and he just wasn't expecting and just dropped it and turned it over. So it wasn't great. It was also brief. Like, I don't think we can make any sweeping conclusions based on what did he play? Like, was he out there for 3 or 4 minutes, maybe max? 4:44. He was out there for. I mean, he was a +4, I suppose. It wasn't disastrous minutes. He missed his 2 threes. Again, that putback dunk off the Steph layup was about his only positive. Look, Gee again was solid, but even he only played 7 minutes. So I don't know. It's tough. Like, in fairness to Kevin Knox, in fairness to everyone, like, no one really played well except for Stephen Post. Like, no one. And Draymond. Draymond was okay, particularly in the second half. But aside from that, like, Butler a -7, Moody a -7, Pods a -10. GP2 I thought was okay. Buddy was a +13, but that tells a lie because he was 1 of 5 and didn't do anything. Looney was a -7, Gee a -2. Post a +22 and Steph a +15. I mean, that just goes to show you, really. Henry says this was one of QP's best defensive games purely because he was matching his timing more consistently. So exciting. You know what's really bizarre? I think he defends better when he's in the main rotation. Aside from, there's been a couple of times like he's playing garbage minutes and he fouls a lot. And I'm not sure if it's a case of he's like, oh, this is garbage time, so I'm just going to try and see what I can do on defense. Let me see if I can block a couple of shots rather than just trying to be like stock standard solid on defense. So it's weird. He almost, like, to me, he plays better defense with the main team than he does like end of the bench guys in garbage time, which also probably goes down to like when you've got Draymond and Jimmy out there, like they're helping you a lot on defense. So I suppose it's not that surprising, but yeah, this was a pretty good defensive performance from him in the second half. Orlando says Steph, JB, KD, Draymond, Post. That'd be a 5, wouldn't it? I'm waiting for the off-season on the KD stuff. Henry says, geez, I forgot about the Luka trade. It still doesn't make sense to me. Robert says, Lakers plus rest versus the Warriors. Let's go. Fenix says, Lakers don't have to beat the Nuggets and the Mavs when they get AD back will be a problem. The Warriors won't have to face the Mavericks. They don't face them again. I don't think they face them again. Or maybe they do. Do the Warriors play the Mavericks again? Do they play them weirdly like 5 times this season? Because they've already played them 4 times. Warriors v Mavs. I don't think they do. I think we've played. So they don't play the Mavericks again, I don't think. So they're probably not going to have to worry about Dallas unless they have to play them in the play-in tournament. Obviously, they're not going to play them in a first-round playoff series. So really, it's only Denver is really going to be the question mark. And again, unless you got to play the Mavericks and AD and stuff in the play-in tournament. Steve says the 15th spot should be filled with a big, preferably a stretch big, insurance if Post ever gets into foul trouble. Possibly. I'm just not sure who's out there necessarily. I would have liked Kelly Olynyk, but he's still got another year on his contract, so he's not getting bought out by the Pelicans. Robbie says, I'm curious how QP will help Kuminga's game. Well, you'd think theoretically it should really help because it's going to take the opposing big out of the lane. And then if Kuminga can go one-on-one, then that should be... I'm really excited for this Kuminga return. There's a chance it doesn't go as well as what we think. Like, I think we look at Quinten Post and think, well, there's a stretch five that Kuminga's never played with, so that should help. And Moody and Pajemski have played significantly better since Butler's arrival, so Butler should only help Kuminga as well. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to come to fruition like many expect, but I'm still excited to see it, and I'm still optimistic of how it will work. My biggest question mark is going to be, and I wrote about this earlier, is can Jimmy, JK, Draymond front court, because that's probably going to be the best Warrior lineup, right? Is playing those three together. Is that enough shooting and enough spacing out on the floor? Is it? We'll see what Kuminga can do. He's shooting 3.6 three-point attempts per game this season. He's like near enough to 35%. So it's not awful, but that three-pointer, that's going to have to be a big factor for him. It's going to have to be big. Like Jimmy's going to have to start taking and making some threes. What is he, like 1 of 12 or something from three so far with the Warriors? Like, can we start making a couple maybe occasionally, just like one a game? I don't know. Robert says, I was really nervous when Curry isn't on the court because Jimmy ain't doing much yet in quarter two. Gamer FTP says, can we talk about Draymond fouling three-point shooter? Yeah, that wasn't smart. You know, you're in control of the game and you foul Franz on a three. Franz like a 30% three-point shooter. Didn't need that. Bree says, love what I saw from Post tonight. Yep, just another really impressive performance from the Warriors' 52nd overall pick. Got to love him. Rancuno says, before the trade, would have dropped this type of game, to be honest. Yep, absolutely, we would have. It's a good point. I don't think we would have had, like, I feel like when you've got Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler on your team, then 17-point margins, like, I feel like this group as a whole, just having Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler together now, I just feel like the team as a whole has a lot more confidence. And so, therefore, when you go down by 17 in the first half, instead of like just, shrugging your shoulders and thinking, okay, we're probably not going to win this game, let's move on. It's kind of like, no, like we have the potency and the firepower to come back and win this game. And that's what they did, even with Jimmy not doing anything. Kepler says, I love the upside of QP on the defensive end. I know he was a decent shot blocker in college. Yeah, as I keep saying, I think once he gets a bit more confidence on that end of the floor, he could be a legit shot blocker. Like he could actually block a shot or two a game. And you've seen glimpses of that, I think. Jackson says, who is your 8 or 9 for the playoff rotation? I think the Warriors have a fairly set 9, I think. And it's Steph. It's the starting 5 right now. It's Steph, Pods, Butler, Moody, and Draymond. And then off the bench, I think Buddy's still going to play. Like, I know fans don't like it. I think Buddy Hield's going to play. It's going to be Kuminga, obviously. That's 7. You're going to have Looney and Post, I think, sharing some center minutes, and that's like your 9 to me. And then you're going to have GP2, Guy Santos, Kevin Knox, Trace, all kind of guys that break glass in case of emergency. GP2 might still play. That might be 10, but it'll be pretty limited minutes, I'd imagine. And Guy, maybe. But like now we're going to 11. So I think Guy's minutes might eradicate once Kuminga returns. Rankerna says QP's a legit 7-1, so he brings enough presence in the paint, even if he's not an elite rim protector. Yep. It's a refreshing sight to see a legit Warrior 7-footer when we've gone like a couple of years where Dario Saric was the tallest player on the roster last season at 6'10", and like Trace and Looney at 6'9". So to have a legit 7-footer, it does make a difference. Bree says, I need Jimmy to have a big offensive night soon. I think it'll come. And it's just a huge positive, the fact that like he's struggling a little bit scoring-wise. And yet the Warriors are, now 7-1 with him in the lineup. They've won 5 in a row here. It's fantastic. Like it's because they can get better. Like this is sustainable. Now Steph's not going to go for 56 every game, but Jimmy's not going to have 5 points every game. So like it's sustainable, and Kuminga's coming back, and so really like this should be the floor of the team. Like they should be getting better and better from this point on. Gamer of 2P says Jimmy and JK will work because JK slashes a lot. Clarence says I'm typing this with one hand, mate. What are you insinuating there? Robbie says, I think JK was shooting before he got hurt, but he probably won't come back the exact same. Kipper says W should pick up Bol in the offseason. I cannot see Steve Kerr playing Bol. Can't see it. Sorry. He's a very intriguing player, don't get me wrong. And he's been getting some minutes for the Suns recently, but have the Suns been any good? Not really. Robbie says, Jimmy and Dre have been playing the post waiting for cutters so JK could thrive. Jack says, GP2 block near the end of the game was dope. Jackson says, Jimmy is like an Iguodala that isn't afraid of shooting free throws. No, he's not afraid of shooting free throws, but he was kind of afraid of taking shots in this game. Again, 7 attempts. But, yeah, I mean, not much more to be said aside from Steph Curry and Quinten Post just delivering here for the Warriors in a huge victory over the Orlando Magic. I'm going to finish it up. Just a couple of other results here. Denver lost today to Milwaukee. I'm not sure we really care about that. I don't think the Warriors are going to be catching the Nuggets in the standings, although it could be important at the end of the season come first-round playoff matchups, I suppose, and where the Nuggets are at the top of the West. We've got the Suns playing the Pelicans. I'm not even worried about the Suns anymore. I think they're that crap that we don't even need to worry about them. They're like 4 games back from the Warriors. So, and they're only up 5 late in the third against the Pels. And the Pels are starting Eve Misi and Carlo Matkovic at their 4 and 5 spot. It's rough for the Pelicans and it's rough for the Suns. And the fact they're only up 5 is not ideal. Bol's got 15 points just quietly. He's a plus 17. KD's got 22. Booker 25. So Booker and Durant, again, a combined 47, and you're up 4. They're up 88, 84, 225 to play. The other one is worth watching here. I might go and watch the end of this game, actually. We've got the Hornets and the Mavericks. The Mavs are up 5, 3.5 to go. Geez, it'd be nice if the Hornets, after we blew them out by 36 the other day, could just come back and steal that one over the Mavericks. That'd be nice. Looks unlikely at this point. It's in Dallas too. Looks unlikely. But I might go watch the end of that game. And then, of course, Minnesota Lakers is just about to start in 5 minutes' time. So I'll sit down and watch that one. Kind of a good result for the Warriors either way, because we never like to see the Lakers win. But if they do, then it's obviously good for the Warriors in the standings, because they will officially pass the Minnesota Timberwolves for the 7th seed in the Western Conference standings. And again, with this victory, they're back into within half a game of the Clippers for the 6th seed. Arminus says Warriors and Rockets first round playoff matchup. I'd love that. I think we'd go in favorites. Like, honestly, I think we'd go in favorites. Robbie says Bol had 23 last game. Jackson says Lakers playing against Wolves and Clips. If they win both, Warriors will be 6th seed, but I still don't want to root for them. It just makes it a little bit easier. It makes it a little bit easier, doesn't it? Anyway, guys, I'm going to finish it up there. Thank you very much to those of you that have tuned in and to those of you that have commented in the chat. Much appreciated. Again, if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel already, that would be greatly appreciated. You can follow me at POC252. That's POK252 on X/Twitter. Much appreciated to you guys that have tuned in on the replay as well or via your podcast feed. The Warriors play the 76ers on Saturday at Wells Fargo Center. I'll be back for another post-game live after that one. Cheers again, guys.